This is 5 Live Formula One with Jenny Gow.
Hello and welcome to Imola for our coverage of round 13 of the Formula One Championship of 2020. It's the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at the beautiful Imola circuit, a circuit that we haven't been to since 2006. And my word, everybody is delighted to be back. You hear from the drivers, you hear from the teams, you hear from the press, you hear from the fans. This is a place that's at the heart of motorsport, and we are hoping for a cracking race ahead of us. As ever, joined by Andrew Benson, the BBC's chief F1 writer, Jolyon Palmer, former F1 driver, and Jack Nicholls, our F1 race commentator. Now, Jolyon, let's start with you, because talk us through this track. Talk us through why it's important to the drivers.
It's historic, isn't it, the Imola circuit? The Grand Prix hasn't been held here for 14 years, but it's a really nice, fast-flowing circuit in the heartland of Italy. Normally you have an amazing Italian support as well, but of course that's not happening this year. But for the drivers, driving the circuit is just brilliant. Fast-flowing chicanes where there used to be added danger, and of course Ed Senna was tragically killed here in 1994 in the Tamburello corner. That's turn one, which is now a chicane and will be our main overtaking place. But yeah, it's nice to go to new venues, and particularly venues that have got a lot of Formula One history.
Jack, it's a beautiful part of the world, isn't it?
Yep. Just an hour or so from Bologna, near the Adriatic coast. Very, very pleasant. Lewis Hamilton, actually, yesterday, when he was asked what makes this circuit so great, he's like, just where it is. It's right in the middle of a town. No new circuits are built in middles of towns anymore, and you'd never get planning permission for one, would you? And so many in the UK anyway are being shut down for where they're built, or noise problems and all that sort of thing. So it's a circuit that is old school because it couldn't be built these days, and that's a real shame. And I'm actually a little bit amazed how much the drivers are all loving it, when it was such a staple of the Formula One calendar for 26 years. And you go to Imola and you weren't, it was like, okay, cool, we're going to a good track. Imola, San Marino Grand Prix, great, cool, good. Now it's this mind-blowing thing, and that just to me shows how far Formula One has fallen in terms of racetracks we go to these days.
Back in the 90s, early 2000s, they were all great legendary circuits. That's the thing, weren't they? The old Hockenheim. Then all the ones that we normally have, Suzuka, Spa, the rest of them. But there wasn't the Tilkedrome effect is what's come in the last sort of 15 years particularly, where you get sort of vast, expansive, mega circuits on paper, but they don't ooze the character and the history of Imola.
Just having a look on the grid as we're about 7 minutes away from the start of this race. Most of the drivers starting to get into their cars, but actually Lewis Hamilton's seat has just been adjusted. Jolyon, I don't know if you're watching the images that we could see, but the team and the mechanics just around the seat. I don't know if he'd reported of something being loose or an issue, but he's still not in the car.
He's in the car now. It could be the seat wasn't actually fastened in properly, or there was something, a belt buckle was caught in the seat, or something pretty standard. Actually, they're running down a spare seat for him now. So he was in the car, but maybe he's going to jump out and jump in a spare seat.
Probably not the ideal preparation you want. Let's talk a bit about Mercedes, because they lock out the front row. It's Valtteri Bottas, who's got a little moustache, a little bit like his father Keke's moustache today, actually. But Bottas starts in pole position with Hamilton alongside him. A really good pole from Bottas yesterday, wasn't it, Jack?
Yeah, very impressive stuff. I think it's a bit more Mansell-y, that moustache, to be honest with you. That's what I'm sort of getting flashbacks to with Valtteri this morning.
Rob Burgundy.
You tell him that to his face, Jolyon.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
That's good. No. So yeah, Bottas starting on pole. Good lap from Bottas, very impressive. A tenth or so ahead of Hamilton. Hamilton described his lap as poor, so he's disappointed with his performance yesterday. We'll see what he can do. It's quite. I was surprised how long the run is towards the Tamburello chicane, but you also have a situation where the track's kind of curves a bit to the left, so it's not a big wide expanse like the run down to turn 2 at Sochi, for example. So I think the start's going to be really, really fascinating. What can Verstappen do in third position? And of course, today is the day, like it almost certainly is the day that Mercedes will seal their 7th world title, because although, you know, there's a few combinations and permutations that have to happen, none of them are particularly unlikely to happen, to be honest. If the Mercedes wipe each other out at turn 1, maybe they won't win the title, but apart from that, it'll probably be wrapped up this afternoon.
Yeah, so let's see if they can win a 7th consecutive Constructors' title. It's uncharted territories. Jolien, if you think most successful teams in Formula One until now, until Mercedes, what era are you talking about? Which different manufacturers are you talking about?
To be clear, Mercedes will win a 7th title. They likely will win it today as well, but if they don't win it today, they will win it in Turkey. So it's an inevitability, really. They are the legendary manufacturer of this era, absolutely no doubt about it. Jack would argue categorically they're the best of all time, and it's hard to deny. You were about to get riled up if I disagree.
I thought we were about to have a fight.
Jack's
Ron
high
Burgundy
sugar levels
style.
right now. You know what? I think the Williams era...
Was that a trident?
The Williams era of the early to mid 90s, I reckon that era is actually one of the most legendary, but because they had a really changing lineup, in a driver lineup of kind of no stars after Prost and Senna, Hill, Villeneuve. If they had a Mika Hakkinen in that car, or Senna if he wasn't killed, could they have done 5 in a row and been looking pretty invincible?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to get bogged down in the, you know, what if the crash in 94 here hadn't happened, but you could quite easily make the argument that 94, 95, 96, 97 are all Senna titles with Williams. It would be quite tricky to kind of look past that possibility. But yeah, it's a fascinating conversation, but Mercedes are just unbelievable at the moment.
Thank you to Just Mick, who's got in touch on hashtag BBC F1. He says Bottas's moustache looks like a map of the Imola circuit. It's not far wrong, actually, with that. Get in touch if you want to. It's f1@bbc.co.uk or on social, hashtag BBC F1. Keep us company as we go through this race. About 2.5 minutes until we get underway with a formation lap. Jolien, drivers being warned about high curbs around Imola.
Yeah, something to look out for. We saw a few drivers riding them particularly heavily at the Variante Alta chicane at the top of the circuit. That's where track limits was also in force and ruled Kimi Räikkönen out of Q2. But yeah, always it's a vulnerability of the reliability of Formula One cars is riding curbs, and it's going to be the same, I think, again today. The drivers are going to be a little bit careful.
Second row behind those Mercedes will be Max Verstappen. Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri having a cracking day yesterday. He wears a Senna tribute helmet as well to his idol. And then we've got Ricciardo, Albon, Leclerc, Kvyat, Norris and Sainz making up the top 10. 410-metre jog, Jolien, down to turn 1. But do you actually think that there's overtaking possibilities on lap 1 in other places?
410-metre jog?
Yeah.
Or however you want to get down there, the distance doesn't change. Well, Lewis Hamilton doesn't think there's any chances of overtaking. He was pretty glum about it yesterday.
What does he know?
Well, I don't know, maybe not a lot, because he's never raced it. So he's in for a bit of a new experience, along with most of the other drivers. Only Kimi Räikkönen's raced here in Formula One after a 14-year absence of the circuit on the calendar. And actually, not many series race at Imola. I've been lucky enough to race here twice. When I raced, there was a hint of an opportunity into Rivazza at the final corner. But you don't want to be passing there now, because
really?
It was a bold one. But if you pass there now, you're simply going to get DRS'd back on the main straight. So it's going to be a bit futile, a bit like passing into La Source in Spa.
Right, let's get this underway then. 9 minutes past 12. It's race day. It's Sunday. We're in Imola. Let's hand over to our commentary duo of Jolien Palmer and Jack Nicholls.
Looking forward to this one. The return of Imola to the Formula One calendar for the first time for 24 years, and the historic circuit, hopefully, is going to give us a good battle. We've seen plenty of iconic moments over the years around this racetrack just outside of Bologna. Closest track, really, to the home of Ferrari. Very close as well to the home of AlphaTauri. The Italian squad just about 20 minutes down the road. And the grid is now cleared. All of the marshals move to the side of the circuit. Valtteri Bottas will be the driver starting on pole position. One of those fairly rare situations where pole position is the inside for the first corner. We have it at some tracks over the course of the season, but the normal norm tends to be that pole position is on the outside before the first braking zone, but it just ticks over to 10 past 12 here on BBC Radio 5 Live. The cars pull away. This is the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. The cars making their way round now on the formation lap, and it is Valtteri Bottas that will be starting on pole position for the Mercedes team. His teammate Lewis Hamilton is alongside him on the front row. I all fluffed up because just doing that big thing, I forgot the name of the Grand Prix. I nearly went San Marino, so that's why I'm a little bit out of kilter. Let's carry on with the grid. Third place, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Fourth is Pierre Gasly, the first driver starting on the soft tyres. Daniel Ricciardo is fifth for Renault, ahead of Alex Albon in sixth. Leclerc, Kvyat, Norris and Sainz the rest of the top 10. Everybody outside the top 10 starting on the medium tyres. Perez in 11th, Ocon 12th, Russell 13th, Vettel and Stroll the top 15, Grosjean, Magnussen, Raikkonen and Latifi. Antonio Giovinazzi starts at the back, 20th position. He actually has gone a little different and will be starting on the soft tyres for the Grand Prix this afternoon. Tiny little lockup for Valtteri Bottas. He's got a little flat spot already on the outlap, Jolyon.
Tyre temperature crucial. We saw that in Portimao last week with that bonkers first lap, and it's the same again now. 17 degrees air temperature, 23 degrees track temperature. Bottas on the mediums, and he has got a little flat spot on the left front. I think he got that into the first corner. So everyone working very hard on the tyres. Giovinazzi's doing the Kimi Raikkonen approach of Portimao, and he's going to try and carve his way up through from the back on the soft tyres, which is not favoured by anyone else who's starting outside of the top 10. I can't wait for this.
I'm really excited. On paper, there's not a huge amount to look forward to, but I think it just feels like it could be a good one.
The first corner's perilous, though. The fast chicane, it's narrow, it's tight. Trying to get side by side through there on the first lap, low grip, is going to be extremely difficult.
And it's gravel on the outside. You don't just go through a bit of tarmac and rejoin. You will be in the gravel, going through the gravel, maybe even getting beached in the gravel. Cars pulling up onto the grid, Jenny Gow.
Yeah, George Russell is the one to watch. That's according to Fernando Alonso, his tip for the future today. So that'll be interesting. Keep an eye out for Russell, 13th.
Yeah, very good qualifying performance from the British driver. Verstappen is angled fairly aggressively to points sort of between the two Mercedes. Bottas will be on the right-hand side on the charge down towards the left-right chicane at Tamburello. The final drivers are just pulling into position now. The Verstappen's quite far forward, actually, isn't he? He's quite far forward of the yellow line on his grid box. But anyway, Antonio Giovinazzi is the last driver to come across and pull in his starting position. He's taken quite a while, actually, Giovinazzi. He now lines up at the back of the field. So, 63 laps around Imola is about to get underway. Bottas, Hamilton on the front row. Verstappen, Gasly, row 2. Away they go. Not a good start from Bottas, but I think Hamilton hasn't got well away either. Verstappen is coming up the inside. He's going to get past Hamilton. Gasly goes to the outside. On the run down to Tamburello, he's almost pushed onto the grass. Ricciardo's up the inside of Hamilton, coming into the left-right chicane. They all make it through safely up at the front. Everybody makes it through safely indeed, but Bottas out in front, Verstappen second. Hamilton third. Now down to the Villeneuve chicane. Ricciardo trying to put pressure onto him, and there's a little bit of gravel being kicked up on the exit of Tamburello. Somebody maybe got a bit of damage further back, but it is Bottas who holds the lead. Hamilton loses that second place with Max Verstappen, and maybe now we'll see the Red Bull fight.
Both Mercedes away sluggishly.
Round goes Magnussen. Magnussen round at Tosa.
Yeah, Magnussen's going to drop to the back of the field then, but I think he'll get going again. Both Mercedes were away poorly. It allowed Max Verstappen up the inside of Lewis Hamilton, and Daniel Ricciardo had a brilliant run as well and couldn't quite make it through on the inside of Tamburello. Hamilton was brave fighting Ricciardo, and it's meant he's still in third place. Ricciardo is fourth. He's got ahead of Pierre Gasly, and Charles Leclerc is sixth ahead of Alex Albon.
Rest of the top 10 at Kvyat, Norris and Sainz, they remain unchanged. Antonio Giovinazzi on his soft tyres made up 6 places at the start. Magnussen and Stroll, the big losers really. Giovinazzi went from the back of the grid up to 14th position. Very impressive stuff from the Italian, who will be staying with the Alfa Romeo team next year. But over the line at the end of lap 1, it is Bottas leading, Verstappen second, Hamilton third, Ricciardo fourth, Gasly fifth. Leclerc, Albon, Kvyat, Norris and Sainz the top 10. Then it's Perez, Ocon, Russell, Giovinazzi, Vettel the top 15, Raikkonen, Grosjean, Latifi, Stroll and Magnussen the top 20. Stroll's in the pits, and in fact he was the one who lost a bit of bodywork. He lost part of his front wing on the exit of the Tamburello chicane.
Yeah, must have been forced wide on the exit of that, and in he comes for that front wing. Had dropped to the back of the pack. Could he have touched Kevin Magnussen and given Magnussen a puncture, which he then made him spin at Tosa? Not quite sure. Now we'll get a replay of it. Stroll down towards turn 1, minding his own business around the outside. Oh no, he's just snagged the back of Ocon. Stroll just washing into Ocon and then washing wide with no front downforce through the gravel.
Bottas leading the Grand Prix, 1.2 seconds clear of Hamilton, who is Verstappen, who is 1 second clear of Hamilton. Ricciardo's in 4th. Gasly and Leclerc in 5th and 6th as they come up to the Variante Alta, the high chicane at the top of the hill, the highest part of the circuit before starting the descent down to the 2 left-handers at Ravazza, where Valtteri Bottas is already. Verstappen in 2nd position, Hamilton in 3rd. They're all on the medium tyres. Ricciardo in 4th spot is the first of the soft tyre runners. Sergio Perez still running in 11th place. He's the next medium tyre runner. Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, albeit it's the first lap at racing speed, but nevertheless he was 3/10 quicker than Valtteri Bottas. He's just a second behind the Finn, so he'll get DRS before too long.
So Hamilton better hope this isn't a boring Grand Prix in terms of a lack of overtaking, because he's got to pass 2 cars to win the Grand Prix after that bad start. Verstappen is going to be the car ahead of him, but Verstappen, as you said, has just done the fastest lap, 3/10 quicker than Bottas. Remember, Bottas maybe has a bit of a flat spot on that left front of his medium tyres, so that'll be something to watch out for. Hamilton chopped Gasly as well, quite a lot down to turn 1.
Yeah, I was worried for Gasly as he came into Tamburello, because he was right on the outside. Hamilton was moving over and he had to get off the throttle, maybe even get on the brakes to avoid getting his nose taken out by Hamilton. Verstappen got a decent start again. The Red Bull, I would start to say now, is getting consistently better starts than the Mercedes, is how I feel. I'd need to look back at the evidence, but last time out in Portimao it was true, in Mugello it was definitely true, and Gasly, he might have had to brake there.
Almost collided with Hamilton before the braking zone, really for turn 1. Gasly had to really get out of it, and that's what allowed Daniel Ricciardo easily past the Frenchman into 4th place. Super tight. Hamilton was being a little bit squeezed by Ricciardo on the inside, by Verstappen, sorry, on the inside, and that is what sort of pushed him towards Gasly, but there was space in the end for the 2 of them to get through side by side, I think.
It was Sebastian Vettel that just nudged Kevin Magnussen to a spin. It was at the tiniest of touches, and I'm actually surprised it was enough to send Magnussen round. Maybe he just got back on the power or something, but it was a really, really little nudge, and around went the Haas driver, who's down in 19th and last at the moment.
Top 3 are really close. Lap 4, and Hamilton is in 3rd place, 1.6 seconds off the race lead. They've got Max Verstappen in between the 2 Red Bulls. They're all line astern, really, really close, and this time they'll have DRS. Verstappen and Hamilton on Bottas, and Hamilton that last lap 3/10 quicker than the 2 ahead.
Lap 4 of 63. Verstappen within a second of Bottas. They are now both 6 seconds clear of Daniel Ricciardo in 4th position, and if it's not going to be an overtake on track, Jenny, it'll be done through strategy.
Yeah, and we're looking at, if you started on the soft tyre, you want to come in from lap 22. If you started on the medium tyre, like the top 3, then you want to try and come in around between lap 26 and 36. Both the medium and the soft looking like a good tyre. The hard, not a great race tyre, although Lance Stroll did come on and change onto the hard on lap 1 after that damage.
Yeah, but that'll be to just see what he can do, really, won't it? Try and go as long into the Grand Prix as possible. Hamilton has got DRS here on Max Verstappen, coming towards Tamburello. Wasn't too far away, to be perfectly honest with you. Nowhere near actually making an overtake on that time through. but it looked fairly doable had he been a little closer coming out of Ravazza. Bottas has now broken DRS range to Verstappen in second place.
Verstappen may well need that if he's going to defend from Hamilton. Hamilton had a huge run on the main straight and probably was 1 or 2 tenths too far back by the time they got to the braking zone for Tamburello. Problem he's got is it's a bit like Portimao last week. That first corner is not a huge braking zone, it's a fast corner rather than a tight hairpin or a bigger conventional overtaking place. So Hamilton's got to be very, very close before he can fire in a lunge.
Lap 5 of 63. The top 3 now up at Variante Alta. Bottas leading, Verstappen second, Hamilton third. The Mercedes, the Red Bull and the Mercedes. Ricciardo is 1.4 seconds clear of Gasly, who's 1.5 seconds clear of Leclerc, who's only 0.8 seconds clear of Albon. So we'll see if Albon can start to put the Ferrari under a little bit of pressure for 6th position at the moment, as we listen to Hamilton's radio.
So hard to follow here.
It's so hard to follow here, says Hamilton. Why is it hard to follow here, would you predict? Because it's not sort of it's not famous for its kind of high-speed corners like a Barcelona or something.
No, but they are quite fast corners generally, and there's just short straights in between.
Sainz is attacking Lando Norris. Sainz to the outside, coming into Tamburello, and gets the move done nicely around the outside of the first chicane. So that's Sainz up into 9th place. Norris now down to 10th. How hard will the McLarens continue to fight each other, or will they now release Sainz to fight with Kvyat and Albon up in front?
Looked a good move from Sainz. I don't think Norris allowed him through in a typical team orders move. And now, in fact, Lando's got Sergio Perez behind, and Perez is on the medium tyres, having not made Q3 yesterday. He's going to be quick behind Norris. But I don't think Norris particularly made that easy for Sainz. Sainz had to go deep on the brakes around the outside.
Lap 6 of 63. The incident involving Vettel and Magnussen is under investigation. I would be surprised if really there's a penalty warranted for that. It was the tiniest little nudge at Tosa, but we'll see what the stewards decide. Whatever happens, Vettel's in 15th position, so it's not going to be of interest anyway.
Vettel was the recipient of a very similar little nudge in turn 3 last time out in Portimao from Antonio Giovinazzi. The difference was Vettel didn't spin the car afterwards as a result, whereas Magnussen did, and he's well adrift down in 19th place, ahead of only Lance Stroll, who's been in for that front wing change.
So Verstappen now 1.4 seconds behind Bottas. Hamilton has dropped back to 1.3 seconds behind Verstappen as well. Now Lando Norris is under pressure from Sergio Perez, the aforementioned Mexican on the medium tyre. Norris not having a huge amount of pace in these opening laps.
No, really struggling, Lando, on the soft tyre. But so is everyone else ahead of him, apart from the top 3 who have checked out in their usual league of their own. Bottas, Verstappen and Hamilton gone. Everyone else in the top 10 is also on the soft tyre, but Norris is just dropping back. And yeah, Perez putting a lot of pressure on. Didn't quite get close enough into Tamburello that time for a move, but you sense it's a matter of time.
Bottas's lead still 1.4 seconds. He set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. Verstappen is pushing on this lap as well to try and match Bottas. There's only a 1/10 of a second between them. In fact, the best laps for Verstappen and Hamilton are absolutely identical, down to the nearest 1,000th of a second. So Verstappen has the pace to run with Bottas at the moment, but you just have to wonder how much Bottas is managing the pace as he sets another fastest lap of the race, gap up to 1.6 seconds. Jenny?
Yeah, I've just spoken to Mercedes about that flat spot for Valtteri Bottas on the formation lap. They said not a problem, they're not concerned about it at all.
Well, that's good news for the Finn. Lap 8 of 63. Albon now has dropped out of DRS range of Charles Leclerc, so the top 3 is Bottas, Verstappen, Hamilton. Then it's Ricciardo, Gasly, Leclerc, Albon, Kvyat, Sainz, Norris, the top 10.
Daniel Kvyat quite close to the back of Alex Albon as well. Really close actually as they come out of Tamburello. Wasn't far away from a move into Tamburello, but it's just a difficult place to lunge. You've got to be really right on the gearbox or alongside into that corner to be making a move on the brakes. But pressure coming from Kvyat on the back of Albon, who, as you say, just dropped back slightly from Leclerc, just out of DRS range. And behind Kvyat is still Carlos Sainz, who's still ahead of Lando Norris by 1.5 seconds, and then Sergio Perez.
Behind Perez is Ocon in 12th, Russell 13th, Giovinazzi 14th, Vettel 15th, Raikkonen, Grosjean, Latifi, Magnussen and Stroll, the top 20. Stroll having had to make a pit stop for a new front wing.
Okay, Pierre, listen to me. I'm really sorry. We have to box. We have to box and retire the car. We have a terminal situation on the car. We have to box now and retire.
Well, that is really, really sad news for Pierre Gasly. Running in 5th position, brilliant qualifying yesterday, but the team have called him in and he will be retiring from the race. He's still lapping absolutely fine, no sort of visible troubles, but into the pits comes Gasly. The Frenchman's race is over.
What a shame. What a strong weekend he was having. Qualified brilliantly in 4th, was putting pressure on Daniel Ricciardo, and he is our first retirement with a mysterious issue on the car. You'd have thought that must be power unit related, and they're boxing before it blows up basically and does more significant damage.
Lap 9 of 63. You can't help but think though, give it a go, or can they really tell that it's going to pop?
Well, they can tell if pressure's dropping in the engine or something, and it's just a matter of time before it goes kaput.
Lap 9 of 63. Bottas leading 1.4 seconds ahead of Verstappen. It's then 1.3 seconds back to Hamilton, so the gap at the front staying pretty steady at the moment. Ricciardo in 4th is in a race of his own at the moment, 3.4 seconds ahead of Leclerc, and then it's a second and a half back to the Albon-Kvyat fight, and what you can hear now is the sound of Alex Albon's Honda engine in the back of his Red Bull, trying to power himself away from Kvyat, and Sainz is coming to join that fight as well. Romain Grosjean's just got past Nicolas Latifi and up into 16th position in the Haas. And where has he done that, Grosjean? I think he's done it at the Variante Alta, and he might even have skipped the corner to do it. So we'll see if we can keep an eye on that one. It might be that he skipped it and Latifi got back ahead or something.
Yeah, that's unconventional passing place for Romain Grosjean. For Gasly, of course, as well, it's only lap 10 of 63.
Okay, Max. GPS update. We are quicker in all corners, just losing time on the straights.
Grosjean's in the pits now, so maybe he's picked up some damage. We'll try and get to the bottom of that one. Verstappen being told we're quicker in all of the corners, but just losing time on the straights, running in 2nd position.
That's Red Bull, I think, trying to highlight how good they are and how Honda aren't as good as Mercedes. They don't make any friends in the engine department, do they, Red Bull?
No.
Maybe they're running in a higher downforce configuration, but that's fairly pointless information, to be honest, for Verstappen right now. He's 1.6 seconds behind Bottas. To know that he's quicker than Bottas through the corners but slower on the straights, does it give that's an irrelevance to him right now?
Does it give him some confidence? Because obviously the corners is the drivers and the straight is the car.
But you can't compare across different cars, though. That's like saying, would it give Bottas confidence to know he's quicker than Romain Grosjean through the corners? You know, if the Red Bull's faster through the corners than the Mercedes, then if you're in like for like, Bottas is faster through the corners than Hamilton, then great. But we know Verstappen is quick compared to the Mercedes in certain places, but maybe they're on a higher downforce setting, maybe the car's simply faster through the corners around this circuit anyway. There's many different things that could determine it.
Sergio Perez right on the back now of Lando Norris. He's been close for some time. Antonio Giovinazzi, I think, has just entered the pit lane in the Alfa Romeo, which is a bit of a surprise. On the soft tyres he started. Perez not close enough to make the overtake on Lando Norris. Jenny has news on Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, just to give you a bit of an update, the team said they noticed a drop of water pressure. They still don't know why, but that's why he's had to retire. Coming into the pits, Romain Grosjean came in as well. He switched onto the hard tyre.
Yeah, he started on the medium, so I think he had a little off up at Variante Alta and maybe damaged his front wing or something, is my educated guess, because he wouldn't have wanted to pit at that point, and it was shown on the timing screens that he skipped a couple of mini sectors, so that's my presumption for Grosjean there. And in fact, I could just see 2 lines going through the grass, so maybe that was him as well. Fastest lap of the race, Valtteri Bottas now 2 seconds clear of Verstappen in seconds.
The gaps are still not big though, 2 seconds and only 1.1 seconds from Verstappen to Hamilton, so the top 3 separated still by less than 3.5 seconds, 12 laps into this race. Bottas is not escaping in any way right now. If Verstappen can't keep up with Bottas, though, in the next few laps, then Hamilton is close enough to try and mount another attack, because he'll need to try and get close to Bottas and pressure his teammate in the pit stop phase.
Things were looking very nice for George Russell in the Williams. He just got up into 12th position with that retirement for Gasly, was running 2.5 seconds ahead of Sebastian Vettel, but has now pitted. So that's a little early, I would have thought, because he was on the mediums. Here's Hamilton's radio.
Right front doesn't feel great.
Right front doesn't feel great, says Hamilton.
I'm very surprised Russell's pitted that early, because he was running really nicely. He was actually matching pace with Ocon and Perez in front, was pretty much in the gaggle, 2 seconds back from the car ahead, on the medium tyre, the same tyre as those guys, and 12th place in a Williams is great for a guy that's never scored a point, despite many promising moments and qualifying stats and the rest of it. Running in 12th this early with good pace, you just think do something conventional, but he's pitted and dropped right to the back of the field now. So it is a bit of a strange one if that's a conventional strategy for Russell. Onto the hard tyre, that's a long way to go.
That 13 of 63. Across the line come Bottas, Verstappen and Hamilton. 2 seconds Bottas to Verstappen, 1.4 seconds Verstappen to Hamilton. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, I've just been listening across to the team radios, and Bottas has been told that it's target -6, which normally means you're coming in 6 laps earlier than we planned for the A plan. And I was just wondering if these tyres aren't working as the teams thought they would, because Russell was on the medium, he switched onto the hard, Stroll mixed onto the hard after his first lap, Grosjean's gone onto the hard as well. I just wonder, I'm trying to speak to the teams to find out a bit more for us.
Okay, lap 13 of 63. Well, we've seen a few odd pit stops early on. Russell was odd, Giovinazzi was odd, Grosjean and Stroll maybe had issues.
But those on the soft tyre are still running okay. So if you start on the medium tyre, Verstappen's just done his best lap of the race, 1/10 away from Bottas's fastest lap of the race so far. Still the gap at 2 seconds out front, just a shade under now. But those on the soft tyres, Albon's just done his best lap of the race as well. There's no sign of any huge degradation for those on the soft. So that leads you to think that the medium tyre, whilst Hamilton's not happy with the right front, there will be various complaints. They're not going away too bad.
Okay, so Ricciardo ahead, starting to drop off now. You are 6/10 quicker than him. Ricciardo struggling ahead.
Albon being told that Daniel Ricciardo is struggling ahead of him. Ricciardo is 1.2 seconds clear of Leclerc, and Albon still can't shake Kvyat, can he?
Leclerc pits. So here we go. Ferrari trying to undercut Ricciardo, and that is pretty much an exact response to the Red Bull radio message. Ferrari will have noticed the same thing. Ricciardo is the first on the soft tyres, starting to just peter away in terms of pace. And Leclerc now, with a fast outlap, can try and jump the Australian.
So, Leclerc going out on the hards. All these pit stops very early, aren't they? Leclerc, Ocon comes in as well in the other Renault, and emerges out onto the circuit in a couple of moments' time. Norris and Ocon both pit too, so I wonder if Russell's going to be undercutting Ocon here, because he wasn't too far back from the Renault driver. He comes across the line now, and Ocon, I think Russell's ahead. No, not quite.
Russell is ahead.
Yeah, he is. Russell has managed to undercut the Renault of Esteban Ocon in that pit stop phase. So that's very good work from the Williams team. Verstappen says the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, gets the gap down to 1.6 seconds to Valtteri Bottas in front.
So Renault could be in double trouble here, because Ricciardo is under pressure of being jumped by Leclerc. Ocon's just been jumped by George Russell. Ocon was in 11th place. I'm actually surprised they tried to cover Russell at that moment. I thought they could go longer on the medium tyres, like the top 3 are all going to do. And now jumping into the pit stops is everyone else that started on the soft tyre.
Wow, it's almost like Russell caused this cascade, didn't he? Because it was all fairly settled down. Russell pits, and then everybody else has got to pit as well. So in come Ricciardo, Albon and Kvyat. Perez stays out on the medium tyres. Kvyat goes out then on the hards again. Ricciardo still ahead of Albon, still ahead of Kvyat, so no change in the order in the pit stops itself between those two.
But where's Leclerc?
Leclerc is coming through the final corner now, out across the line, and he's ahead of Albon. He's still going to be behind Daniel Ricciardo. So Leclerc slots in behind Ricciardo, very much as you were.
But with tyres that are up to temperature, how quickly can Ricciardo attack on his hard tyres? Down towards the Villeneuve chicane, and then Tosa, and now it's the section that is harder to follow. Short straights, and Leclerc's a big lock-up. He's not quite going off down at Tosa, but desperate to try and distract Ricciardo, get right in his mirrors, and those tyres have got to go a long way. Leclerc having a big left front lock-up won't help that.
Bottas sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. 2 seconds though, still clear of Max Verstappen. He edges a bit out, and then it kind of comes back at him, so the gap remains around 2 seconds. Just getting another look at Leclerc coming up into Tosa. Wasn't close enough to actually try and overtake, was he? He just didn't brake at all.
No, just I think desperate to try and get close to Ricciardo, try and distract his rival ahead, who was just on the colder tyres, but not working out. And in fact, that's going to be negative for Leclerc now for the rest of the race.
everything you got.
Everything you got is the message for, to Bottas. He must be pitting soon.
Yeah, that's going to be now Bottas' last lap or two before pitting. Maybe even at the end of this lap. He's actually flying out there. He's just done the fastest lap of the race, and he's looking to improve on that with the fastest middle sector of the race on this lap. Lap 16 of 63. 2.2 seconds the gap to Verstappen, and I think Mercedes is going to have to just defend that. They've got a nice clear window now. All those midfielders have pitted. They can pit and come out ahead of Carlos Sainz in fourth. So they know that Verstappen can do the same basically and try and undercut Bottas for the race lead. They've got to go a bit defensive.
But he isn't at the moment. Verstappen and Bottas both stay out another lap. I'm surprised Red Bull aren't being a little more aggressive on this front.
From 2.3 seconds back, it's probably a little bit too far. That's the problem for Verstappen. Hamilton's only a second and a half back from Verstappen, and maybe Mercedes will try and undercut Verstappen with Hamilton to get their 1-2 back. It's a difficult position. If Verstappen pits, if Red Bull pit Verstappen and he doesn't jump Bottas you know will pit the next lap, cover off Verstappen, that's race neutralised. They have one shot to try and undercut or do something different on strategy, and if you pit when you're too far away to land the punch, then you're snookered really for the rest of the Grand Prix.
Lap 17 of 63.
I think Hamilton maybe can land a punch though on Verstappen if he pits this lap. He's in a position probably now where he wants to do whatever Verstappen doesn't. The thing for Hamilton is, if he pits now, he's got nothing left to try and fight with Bottas for the win. He might get Verstappen.
Oh, Kvyat just catches the back of Albon on the run into Tamburello. Look to the inside. Albon came across to take the corner, and there was a little bit of a touch front wing to rear wheel. The wing looks okay. And actually, the tyre looks okay for Albon. That had damage written all over it, but they just about managed to escape. They're battling over 12th and 13th at the moment.
Yeah, Kvyat's been really, really close behind Albon for a long time. Finally was close enough to go for a move on the inside, and Albon still turned into an apex, and Kvyat then couldn't really back out of it by then. In fact, he wasn't as committed as perhaps he could have been, and that's what saved a bigger incident. Just a tiny scrape of front wing to rear wheel, and I think they've both got away with it. Formula One cars are so strong. Pirelli tyres are so strong. Who knew it?
Jenny.
Yeah, those strong tyres are the talking point, because people are switching onto the hards a lot earlier than were expected. McLaren just getting ready for Sainz to come. It's a long pit lane, and they're switching onto the medium tyre. So the first of the runners to go onto a different strategy. So that's Sainz to the medium tyre. But those hard tyres, the question is, can they last to the end of this race? Pirelli say don't know, because no one's got the data for it. Mercedes think that people can last till the end of the race. So it's going to be fascinating to see who loses pace quickly towards the latter part of this race.
Sainz emerges behind Albon and Kvyat, so that's exactly the same place as he was before, but on the medium tyre, something different. That's going to be a real slog to the end of the race. Surely that's Sainz in for a two-stop, and the others potentially not. Here's Verstappen in then for Red Bull.
So the Red Bull driver pulls into the pits. Off go the mediums, on go the hard tyres. Away he goes, very neat pit stop. You hear the screech of tyres as he departs the pit lane. And he'll have to, a 2.2 second pit stop, he'll have to just go for it. See if he can undercut the Mercedes, or will the Mercedes feel confident enough to just stay out there?
He's got the track to himself on the pit exit. That's what the leaders all had, and that's why Bottas was given the hurry up at that point. No car behind. Sergio Perez will be the car behind, but it's still 5 seconds away as Verstappen turns into Tamburello. Now he's got to go flat out and see if he could possibly beat Bottas if Mercedes have a slow pit stop.
Better pick up the pace now, don't stop me.
Right, Hamilton's saying, I'm going to pick up the pace, don't stop me. Both of the Mercedes are flying on this lap.
So this is the response, and I wondered if Hamilton might be doing that, saving his tyres in that first stint. He tried to attack Verstappen in the opening laps and then just held back and never showed again. Mercedes getting ready for a pit stop. Surely that'll be for Bottas to cover the race lead.
In comes Bottas. The race leader peels to the right-hand side, locks up as he gets onto the pit lane speed limiter and comes in for a change of tyres. The mediums go off, the hards go on. It's neat, it's tidy, it's 2.4 seconds, and that should give Bottas the lead of the Grand Prix back. Verstappen coming now through the Ravazza corners at the end of the circuit and then accelerating out over the start-finish straight again. But this should be comfortable for Bottas. Verstappen's coming, but Bottas will hold the lead of the race, or the net lead of the race, for the time being.
Verstappen did the fastest middle and final sector on his outlap. He was absolutely flying, and Mercedes were right to pit Bottas.
Okay, Lewis, we're going to be extending. We are going to extend.
So Hamilton extending. That's him wanting to go for the win in the Grand Prix, right?
Yeah, this is now Hamilton. He could have undercut Verstappen. Mercedes could have undercut Verstappen with Hamilton if they wanted. Instead, they've neutralised Verstappen's attack for the win. Bottas is out of his pit stop, 43 laps to go on a set of hard tyres. The same as Verstappen, they've covered him. Hamilton is still out in the race lead, 24 seconds clear of Bottas. He's just done the fastest lap of the race as well on the last lap. And if he's got anything left in his tyres, he can just keep pushing for 10 more laps, say. Then he'll have a much better car for the end. Will probably emerge behind both Bottas and Verstappen, but on racier tyres, and can attack on track.
At 21 of 63, Hamilton leading, 24 seconds clear of Bottas in second place, who's 1.1 seconds ahead of Verstappen in third.
In effect, Hamilton's decision at that pit stop phase was, do they try and jump Verstappen in the pit stop and get second, or do they do this, which they're doing, going long, do something different to both the top two and go for the win? And they've opted to roll the dice here and go for the win.
Jenny.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the pit lane length. It's a really long pit lane here, so the average time lost is about 28 seconds if you come in for a pit stop. That's why the team's really erring towards a one-stop strategy, just because it's so costly to come in.
Sergio Perez is up into fourth place. Now, this is going to be an interesting test because Perez was the car ahead of Ocon. On the medium tyres, Ocon pitted to try and cover Russell and got jumped by Russell. I was surprised Ocon pitted, but he did. And he's now down in 16th place behind most people that have pitted. Perez is flying in fourth place. He's a second quicker than Albon. He's a second quicker than Kvyat. Perez, when he does pit, he doesn't need to pit, also similar to Hamilton, for another 10 or 15 laps. He's going to do the overcut here, so long as he can keep his tyres in check, and go from an Ocon-esque position. He could be ending up fourth or fifth place in the Grand Prix here, because he's now got completely clear air. Everyone's pitted in front of him.
Lewis Hamilton, fastest lap of the race on lap 22 of 63. Hamilton absolutely flying out in the front. He Bottas' first lap out of the pits on his new hard tyres is 0.4 of a second slower than Hamilton managed. So if Hamilton can, continue this form, he has got a shot at the race win.
And Verstappen's only 0.6 away from Bottas. It's not neutralised for good, that's for sure. They're on the same tyre, on the same strategy. But Verstappen's faster. 2.5 tenths quicker on the last lap. He's in DRS range.
So we are 2.4 safe to Lewis. We have damage on the floor, left-hand side.
Damage on the floor, left-hand side is the message for Valtteri Bottas. They're 2.4 seconds safe to Lewis, which is not a huge amount, to be honest with you.
That ain't safe. That ain't safe to Lewis. 2.4 seconds with Hamilton going fast out front and Bottas with damage to the floor. That's safe, meaning if Hamilton pits now, he'll be 2.4 seconds back. But in terms of actual race-winning safety, which is what Bottas is looking for at the end of the race, this is a precarious position. Another fastest lap for Hamilton. He's winning the race with this stint right now, unless Bottas can pick up the pace.
Are you surprised that Mercedes are doing a different strategy between Hamilton and Bottas? Because is it not the situation where they usually try not to do that and keep them on the same plan?
When they're 1-2, yes, but when they're 1-3, they've still got to try and finish 1-2, and I think they could have done that with an undercut, but then you leave yourself open to Verstappen maybe going long and doing something different, because you'd have to pit Bottas after Hamilton to avoid a really messy situation with team orders. So I think they're kind of exempt from their usual scenario because of Verstappen's proximity to the race lead.
Pete says, this is what Verstappen says.
Yeah, I think we're just getting held up here by Bottas.
We're just getting held up here by Bottas is the message. Pete says on hashtag BBC F1, the way the guys talk make me laugh. Hamilton, hang on, I'm just going to watch Sainz try and pass Kvyat on the run down towards Tamburello. He's got a good run. Kvyat covered the inside, but pretty late in the day, and Sainz had to back out of it. But Pete says Hamilton gets told by his team that they've decided he's going long, and the commentators talk like it's Hamilton's decision. He was told what to do, as he always is. How does that work?
Hamilton said, don't pit me, I've saved the tyres, I want to go long. Does that not quantify his decision, really? Is that not... We heard it on the radio, didn't we?
Yeah, agreed.
He said, I don't want to pit.
Don't stop me now is pretty much what he said.
Having such a good time.
Lap 24 of 63. Hamilton, 25.6 seconds clear now of Valtteri Bottas up in front. Verstappen just outside of DRS range now from Valtteri Bottas. So, Jenny, the question is, how big an advantage can Hamilton build up?
Yeah, the race is on for him, and knowing that Bottas has a little bit of floor damage isn't going to help in the minds, is it, of Bottas? But what I want to ask you guys, we spoke a little bit about the strategy. If it had been Bottas in third place and Hamilton leading the race, do you think they'd have let Bottas extend to try and do the overcut?
Yeah, I would have thought so, but would they have thought he could?
Our battery is charging slow.
Verstappen complaining that his battery is charging slowly, but
the thing is, it's a bit of a moot point, because we never have a position, really, where Hamilton's out front, they're all on the same strategy, and Hamilton is the bottleneck with Verstappen and then Bottas. If that was the case, yes, I think they would allow it, but usually Hamilton is better on his tyres than Bottas. He's always faster in race conditions, therefore he's able to pull off strategies like this, whereas Bottas, would he be able to? If he were able to, and he was in third place and Hamilton was struggling and needed to defend the race lead, it's the sensible thing that Mercedes have done here. Just Hamilton's able to pull it off and Bottas has damage.
So, Lewis, if you've got a little bit more pace we could do with it, we're going to catch that traffic. Okay, copy. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, so Hamilton being told, if you need a bit more pace or we're going to catch that traffic. So be quicker sooner so we can pit you earlier, basically.
There's a load of back markers that Hamilton's about to catch. It's Ocon, who's got no pace as well at the moment. He's actually dropping away from Russell by 3 seconds, but he's now holding up Giovinazzi, Grosjean and Stroll. So there's 4 cars that Hamilton's about to catch. He's 26.5 seconds in front of Bottas. We think it's 27 seconds for a pit stop. It's going to be mighty close, and that's why Pete Bonington was just saying, please, we need a bit more pace if you've got it. They want to try and pit Hamilton before he catches those back markers, because you always lose a bit of time lapping traffic. But Hamilton's actually just dropping away in his pace.
Yeah, he was 0.6 quicker than Bottas the lap before, but on this lap he went half a second slower than he managed previously. So Hamilton leading the race.
So, Lewis, do you think you can extend 10 more laps? Can you extend?
I could definitely go longer.
Okay, so now, because Mercedes looked like they were about to get everything ready a moment ago, but now they're bailing on this initial jump strategy and they want to go another 10 laps.
Yeah, and it's still all working well for Hamilton, but he probably will have to do some overtaking unless he can keep up the pace. He's just done the fastest first sector of the race on this lap, so his tyres aren't going anywhere in a hurry, but he's just dropped a little bit from his absolute peak of fastest lap runs that he was setting a few laps ago. The gap is still 26 seconds to Bottas. Verstappen is 1.5 seconds behind Bottas. Hamilton is going to emerge right with the two of them if he were to pit now. But Mercedes, if Hamilton is okay to keep going, they can keep running Hamilton, keep going, and he's going to have a huge tyre advantage when he pits to try and overtake them on track, because if he can't pass them now on track, then, if he pits now and he's going to come behind them, he might as well do another 10 laps, be behind them, but on 10 laps better tyres.
Lap 27 of 63. Pete, we're going to have to agree to disagree, because Pete's just written, Hamilton said, I'm picking up the pace, don't stop me now, meaning don't slow me down. But I think he means don't stop me now, as in don't pit stop me now, don't stop me for tyres now.
That's what a stop is in Formula 1.
Lap 27 of 63. Hamilton leading, yet to pit. Bottas in second, has pitted, 1.6 seconds clear of Verstappen. And then Perez is fourth, yet to pit as well. Vettel is fifth, yet to pit. Raikkonen, Latifi, Magnussen all yet to pit also. So then it's Ricciardo at the moment, who's sort of best of the rest, depending on what happens with Perez. And then it is Leclerc, Albon, Kvyat, Sainz, Norris, Russell, Ocon, Giovinazzi, Grosjean and Stroll, the 19 runners. Gasly out of the Grand Prix.
Ricciardo's landed himself in a tricky position here. He's 27 seconds behind Perez, who is still flying in the racing point. And he's now bottled up behind Magnussen, who hasn't pitted for Haas. Ricciardo has to pass Magnussen very, very quickly, because he's losing about 1.5 seconds per lap to Sergio Perez.
The gap between Perez and Ricciardo is now 29 seconds. Here comes Ricciardo to the outside of Magnussen into Tamburello. He gets it then. He gets the move made, Ricciardo, but he's 29 seconds back. And so Perez almost needs to pit straight away. Leclerc is going to try and get past Magnussen as well, coming into the Villeneuve chicane, but he's not able to do it. He tries to get the cut back and then out into Tosa. Albon will try and take advantage of this as well, but he's not quite close enough to do it. Leclerc tries to send it round the outside of Tosa. Unnecessarily optimistic, but he's pulled it off. Very nice work from Charles Leclerc, although Magnussen's trying to hold it in, coming into Piratella at the top of the hill. Albon then takes advantage and sweeps past Magnussen as well. Does he? They're side by side through Aqua Minerale, and no, that could allow Daniel Kvyat to finally attack the Red Bull too. Perez pits now, as we thought he may well do, so we'll keep an eye out where he comes out, and a bit of a lock-up coming into the Variante outer for Magnussen. But where is Perez going to emerge compared to Daniel Ricciardo?
Perez will be ahead, I think, because Ricciardo is held up in this melee behind Magnussen, who's having fun out there. Good to see from Kevin Magnussen, fighting tooth and nail. He can, it's for position, although Magnussen hasn't stopped after that spin on the first lap. Remember, he's may well be leaving Formula One at the end of the season. He's got 5 more races to enjoy, and he's fighting with these midfield rivals hard.
Perez is ahead of Ricciardo, so by 1.4 seconds. And now there's the attack to the inside from Sainz, and a fairly late chop across from Daniel Kvyat. Really tricky into Tamburello because the track's turning as well to the place you want to be on the inside.
I think Kvyat was moving quite a lot, I have to say, across both sides of the track to try and cover Sainz. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a bit of agitated team radio from the McLaren driver there, because it looked like he defended outside and then swapped to the inside and didn't know which part of the road to defend. Sainz had such a big closing speed, and Magnussen pitted on that lap as well. So now they've all been unleashed. That was a big chance for someone to be opportunistic in that midfield group, but no one actually could make a meaningful move for position. And it all means Sergio Perez in all of that has emerged as best of the rest right now. And you know what? Sebastian Vettel's done a good first stint as well, and he's in a similar boat. He's going very, very long on a hard tyre that he started on. Vettel's going to be a factor later on for these solid points.
Ocon has just lost a couple of places to Giovinazzi, Grosjean and Stroll, and he's pulling off the circuit. That's why looks as though it's a mechanical for Esteban Ocon.
I have something. I have a problem with the clutch. Okay, guys, I think I'm out.
Ocon out of the Grand Prix.
And if that's a safety car, then Hamilton is going to be able to pit and emerge easily in the lead. Right now, he's got 27 seconds anyway. It's going to be really, really tight, but he maybe could do it. If there's a safety car, he's going to have a nice shortened pit stop damage, and he's going to emerge comfortably in the lead.
Well, it's right by that. You'd have to think it would be a virtual safety car, at least when you think of the virtual safety cars we got in the Nürburgring a couple of weeks ago that was for fairly similar positions, even though Ocon has parked right by a marshal's post.
Bit of smoke coming off the right rear brake, and that looks like it almost might catch a light with the amount that's coming off there from Ocon. In a Nürburgring, we had a virtual safety car for George Russell parking in a similar spot to Ocon, and we had a full safety car for Lando Norris retiring. There's a lot of smoke coming off the Renault. It wouldn't surprise me if we have a virtual safety car, given what we've seen so far this year, which would hand the initiative firmly to Lewis Hamilton.
So Lewis 17.5, we are 1 second unsafe.
Now they're 1 second unsafe, Valtteri Bottas, they reckon. 28.5 seconds, the gap between Hamilton and Bottas. Mercedes are still waiting with the tyres, and the virtual safety car's deployed. This is an open goal, surely here for Hamilton.
Easy peasy, unsafe in normal race conditions. Hamilton had done the job anyway, but now virtual safety car's out. Everyone has to go slow as Hamilton comes in the pits. He's losing way less time, and he's going to emerge in a comfortable race lead.
So into the pits comes Hamilton. A real shame this, because he was about to win it. Well, he was looking like he might be able to win it sort of fair and square. Not that this isn't fair by any stretch of the imagination, but you know what I mean. And it just hasn't worked out that way. Now, what's going to happen with your Vettels and your Raikkonens and your Latifis of this world as well?
Virtual safety car's ended. The virtual safety car literally was out for the duration that Hamilton was in the pits. If it was going to be out for about 30 seconds, then Hamilton had the absolute luck of the draw with that one. And he's out of the pits now, comfortably in the lead. But I don't think anyone else was able to take benefit from that. Stroll pitted as well, had half a benefit, but he's right at the back, and that was his second stop after pitting for that front wing on the opening lap. I don't think Vettel, Raikkonen or Latifi were at the pit entry at the right time.
No, you're right. So lap 31 of 63, virtual safety car is over, and Lewis Hamilton leads the Grand Prix. 4 seconds clear of Valtteri Bottas. Verstappen is third.
You got to wonder, when Ocon, there was no virtual safety car for a minute. Then there is, just as Hamilton's coming through, the race leader coming through. I think Hamilton was clear just to lead ahead of Bottas, but he's now emerged probably 8 seconds ahead of Bottas. It's a shame when it favours the race leader just like that, and you know, when the car's stationary already on the side of the grass for a minute and a half, and then just as Hamilton's coming to the pit lane, they virtual safety car, and the virtual safety car just as he's exiting. I'm not saying there's bias there from the FIA, but it's really played into Hamilton's hands heavily.
Jenny.
Yeah, just listening across to the team radio. So Bottas does have damage on the left-hand side of his floor. Now, they're saying at Mercedes it is causing a significant loss on the data. Verstappen's also been on the radio saying he was being held up by Bottas. So now that comes a little bit irrelevant to a certain point because Hamilton's leading this race. But I just wonder if Verstappen can try and get past Bottas.
Well, if he's got to do it, if he's going to do it, he's got to do it on the racetrack now, hasn't he? Because don't expect any more pit stops from those drivers. It is weird, the virtual safety car thing, because even if it's, I don't know, it's one of those where you think even if it's accidental,
to have it for such a short period that it benefits just one driver, rather than have it for a 2-minute period that everyone does one lap under virtual safety car, have it for just 30 seconds as one driver happens to be, maybe just throw it as the guy's just going past the pitch to try and be fair.
Yeah.
If there was an interest in fairness there. But it just worked. But you couldn't have scripted that to work better for Lewis Hamilton if you tried.
Was it the same in the Nürburgring? I can't remember who pitted in the Nürburgring.
Yeah, Hamilton pitted and Verstappen pitted and Bottas lost out.
Because it was just as if the safety car...
It was the same thing, and Ricciardo half benefited, didn't he? But Hamilton and Verstappen both managed to get it to work perfectly. And it's happened again for him here. 4 seconds clear of Bottas, who's got damage. Hamilton had this race, I think, looking pretty good anyway, but it certainly helped him make it a breeze.
Yeah, so Hamilton leading 4.5 seconds clear of Bottas in second now. Verstappen is on the push, 1.2 seconds back to Max Verstappen in third. Vettel still in fourth position then in the Ferrari. Raikkonen in fifth, Latifi sixth. They've all yet to pit. Perez in seventh, then came out 5 seconds clear of Daniel Ricciardo in eighth, Leclerc in ninth. So if I just mentally remove those three, that means that in terms of net positions, it's Perez fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Leclerc sixth, Albon seventh, Kvyat eighth, and then ninth and 10th still for the two McLarens. And George Russell at the moment is running in a net 11th position, depending on where your Vettels, Raikkonens, Latifis come out.
No, Vettel's coming out ahead of Russell. He's going to come out right with the two McLarens as it stands, and he's still ticking along quite nicely, Sebastian Vettel. So that's going to be bad news for Russell. Raikkonen is going to be right with George Russell, but on much fresher tyres, and Latifi will be behind his teammate. But that early pit stop, I don't think it's worked out for Russell in the end, because he snookered himself to a position outside of the top 10 when his tyres should have allowed him to go much longer, as Perez has done, and jump a whole host of cars. And Vettel will do as well.
I'm a bit annoyed by that virtual safety car. We've been robbed, really, of quite a good Grand... OK, the outcome might have been the same, but at least he would have earned the outcome. And I know he still earned it, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the outcome... Bottas had just had the radio message to say he was 1 second unsafe.
Yeah.
Which meant in a normal situation, Hamilton could pit and come out 1 second ahead of Bottas. Verstappen just jumps over the curbs, exit of Aqua Minerale, couldn't stop it for that second part there. So you heard a bit of extra buzzing from the engine as he's just vibrating over the curbs and wheel spinning slightly, but still 1 second away from Bottas. That's still a tussle for second, but Verstappen's struggling to make inroads on track. Hamilton, with a sensible pit stop from Mercedes, would have had it anyway, but the virtual safety car made it easy. He's 5 seconds clear, 5.7 seconds clear. Bottas has damage, probably couldn't fight in terms of pace against Hamilton. But it would have been nice to see him earn it on merit rather than have the element of virtual safety car make it easy in the end.
Lap 35 of 63, we are past half race distance, and Verstappen still within a second of Valtteri Bottas, so he's going to pressure him, and he's driving pretty hard, is Verstappen, as he comes out chasing Valtteri Bottas over that second position. And well, there's now no reason that Bottas would be holding Verstappen up. If maybe he was sort of managing his pace before, he'd want to be managing it a little bit further away from Verstappen. So the Dutchman's on a charge trying to get that second place. Latifi has now pitted, so he's dropping down the order. That promotes Raikkonen up into 5th, Perez up into 6th.
Normally you'd say for Verstappen, he's within a second of Bottas but can't make a move. It's as Hamilton said actually after qualifying, the overtaking is difficult because the braking zone into Tamburello is not huge. It's a fast-ish corner, a chicane as well, and it's difficult to make a pass there. We've seen a few, but it's not been an overtaking frenzy as we've seen more in Portimao. But the problem for Verstappen is a pit stop is 27 seconds. It's such a high cost. Normally you'd say try a second pit stop and really roar up to the back of Bottas, who is clearly struggling for pace right now with that damage to the left-hand side of his floor. The floor is a sensitive aero part of the car, maybe the most sensitive aero part of the car, and Bottas is clearly shedding time, holding Verstappen up. But Verstappen's got 27 seconds to make up. On other circuits, it could be even under 20 seconds.
Actually, the engine cut out a little bit.
Okay, copy. I'll have a look.
Verstappen saying the engine cut out a little bit. Still got a reasonable amount of pace though. Verstappen still trying to chase down Bottas for second position. Hamilton leading the Grand Prix. Vettel in 4th spot. Raikkonen 5th. Those are the last two drivers yet to pit. Well, Lewis Hamilton was doing a really, really impressive drive. He was running in 3rd place. Both Bottas and Verstappen were ahead of him. They came into the pits, but Hamilton stayed out, was doing a brilliant job with his tyres, was going longer and longer, and it looked as though he might leap into the lead ahead of Bottas when he made his pit stop. In the end, though, a virtual safety car was deployed. Hamilton was able to pit behind the virtual safety car, and the job was made even easier for him. So he now leads the race. Valtteri Bottas went wide coming out of the first Ravazza. He had a lock-up coming down into the first Ravazza, kicked up a bit of gravel, and that means Verstappen is right on the Finn's tail now in the fight for second place.
Yeah, Bottas had to defend the inside, and now actually Verstappen at toes is really close as well. Has a little look to the inside, but he's just a bit too far back there. And now Bottas should be able to regroup through Piratella and Acqua Minerale, but he's clearly feeling the pressure. Went wide at Ravazza 1. And that allowed Max Verstappen a real good chance down into Tamburello, but Bottas covered it off.
So, a little mistake from Valtteri Bottas. Very lucky not to get punished, but it's one of those where because there's gravel there, he had to really slow down, just couldn't have blasted straight through the runoff area. Verstappen's really close coming down to Ravazza.
Bottas is struggling, he's really struggling, he's feeling the heat as well. This is going to be tight again. Verstappen's just 7 tenths back into Ravazza. Now Bottas may have to be a bit more cautious on the brakes.
Well, the aero damage has been there since lap 2 and it's pretty significant.
Oh, it didn't happen.
We think is debris from another car, probably around turn 7.
So, lap 38 of 63. Valtteri Bottas being told about the damage to his car, and Max Verstappen is right on the back of him, but catching is one thing, passing very much another. And I think that, just to be clear, Hamilton was doing a great job. Some of you are thinking that we're saying Hamilton has lucked into this win. He hasn't lucked into this win. It was impressive he could stay out so long. He had done enough to get ahead of Bottas just about, but it just would have been nice to have seen that play out naturally, rather than made a little easier and more comfortable with the virtual safety car. That's the only point. He absolutely deserves the lead of this race and has been the quickest of everyone in the field today.
And the 1 second unsafe radio message to Valtteri Bottas basically confirmed that. It confirmed that Hamilton merited the win, or the race lead, I should say. But it was made by default by the virtual safety car. That's the only thing. It would have been tight, and Hamilton would have come out probably on some not up to temperature hard tyres. He probably would have had the race lead anyway. But it was made a non-event by the virtual safety car. That's the frustration.
Jenny.
Yeah, just having a look at what's going on out there. Ocon, he had to retire because of gearbox issues, so that was our second retirement after Gasly having to come out as well. And just thinking about those McLarens, they switched on to the medium tyre lap 14 and 18. Now, is that medium tyre going to get to the end, or are they going to have to stop again for another change of tyre? If they do, that could promote Russell up to 11th.
Which could be 10th if Raikkonen can't find a bit more pace as well, because Raikkonen's still got a pit, Vettel's still got a pit. They're both ticking along pretty well, and they're both on the medium tyre, which suggests that the tyre life on the mediums is okay, and McLaren probably will, well, they've got to go to the end on this medium, or try their hardest to do so, because a second pit stop will basically be them out of contention. But the fact that Vettel's just done his personal best lap of the race in 4th is a good sign, and it's matching pace of Perez, Ricciardo, Leclerc, Albon, Kvyat, all that whole gaggle.
That 39 of 63. Hamilton leading the race, 9.7 seconds clear of Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton on those fresher tyres, absolutely charging clear. Bottas locks up again, just snatches the left front coming down into Ravazza, and Verstappen opens the flap in the rear wing, opens the DRS. He'll start to close in again as he comes down towards Tamburello chicane, but he's just too far back from the Mercedes of Bottas this time around. He's getting closer and closer though, and there's a real opportunity for Verstappen in this race to finish second.
Bottas is feeling the heat. We know he can be prone to mistakes, particularly under braking. Is what happened what he did in Nürburgring to lose the race lead. Remember, he had that big lock-up down at turn 1, and that gifted the lead and the race win to Lewis Hamilton. And he's just threatening to do that again right now for second place, under pressure from the Red Bull of Verstappen this time. And, oh, this is a horrible, horrible pit stop for Sebastian Vettel. Oh, no. His race was looking so good on the strategy, but that is an awful pit stop, 13 seconds. He's just shed a good 11 seconds in the pits compared to what he should have done. And his race of good points looks like it's going to be a struggle from here on in now.
Just when you think Vettel is having a good Grand Prix, Russell is going to get ahead of him in the Williams. He was ahead of him anyway. Russell will have fresher tyres, but Russell now into 12th position. That will become 11th when Raikkonen pits. Giovinazzi has got ahead of Sebastian Vettel here, who pitted all that time ago on, what, about lap 7 or 8 or something? It was really early for Giovinazzi, and Vettel's only come out just in front of Nicholas Latifi. So the order is: Hamilton leads, Bottas second, Verstappen third, Raikkonen fourth but has yet to pit, Perez is fifth, 6th is Ricciardo, 7th is Leclerc, 8th is Albon, 9th is Kvyat, 10th is Sainz, 11th is Lando Norris. And it was just the front left for Vettel. They kept drilling it and drilling it and drilling it, but wouldn't go on.
I don't know if it was just the front left. The rear right's sticking as well. There's work on the rear right and the front left. The rear left wasn't good. Then they're messing around with the front right. It was an absolute horror show on all angles.
Yeah.
I don't know what wasn't the problem on that pit stop. Which tyre wasn't the issue?
That 41 of 63. Sound you can hear again. Max Verstappen. Here's his radio.
Max, what do you think for mode 8 and using the overtake exit 15?
The mode 8 is the worst ever.
But that's clear enough. Thank you.
Well, that's Verstappen discussing engine modes fairly clearly.
I don't think he'll be using mode 8. Into Ravazza. Still within a second of Bottas, but this time no lock-up from Bottas. Down the hill, braking into Ravazza 1. That's where he's had a couple of lock-ups, and one of them certainly gave Verstappen a good chance. About 6 or 7 laps ago now. But this time Verstappen within DRS range, but not within overtaking range. He needs about another 3 or 4 tenths. And really, he's got to try and pressure Bottas into another mistake.
That 42 of 63, so 22 laps to go in the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. And Verstappen is really, really hounding Valtteri Bottas, isn't he, in their battle over second position. The gap just half a second between them as they come up the hill again out of Tosa. It's Schumacher-Alonso style.
What I'm surprised at is if this damage has been there since lap 2, Bottas is struggling with an awful lot more on this set of tyres than he was on the first set, when he was able to gap Verstappen to the tune of a couple of seconds. If Verstappen was crawling all over Bottas like this when he pitted the first time, he would have undercut Bottas. That maybe wouldn't have allowed Hamilton to go long into the race, and Verstappen might be in control right now. But Bottas on the first stint, even though his engineer said the damage has been there since lap 2 from a bit of debris, they think. Oh, Bottas has had another lock-up, he's in the gravel.
And this is Verstappen's chance. He's tucked right underneath the rear wing as they come through the second part of Ravazza. Bottas, for about the 4th time, made a lock-up into the first left-hander, went out wide into the gravel, and now Verstappen is right on the tail of the Finn for the lead of the Grand Prix. Bottas covers the inside line, coming towards Tamburello. Verstappen sweeps to the outside, stamps on the brakes, and takes second position away from the Finn. The Mercedes drops down to 3rd place. The Red Bull team cheer in the garage because Verstappen has got the job done. The pressure once again has told on Valtteri Bottas, and he drops down to 3rd spot. Verstappen up to 2nd.
I don't know how he's keeping doing the same mistake, Bottas. It's not an easy braking zone down the hill, and it's true that once you have a bit of a lock-up, you can flat spot your tyres and it makes the lock-up even easier the next time around. But he's thrown this second place away, locking up again and properly going through the gravel with pretty much the whole car this time. Verstappen had to back off to not run into the back of Bottas into Ravazza 2, and then sealed it with a nice move around the outside at Tamburello. It still wasn't easy.
Send it!
Oh, sure.
Send it, says Verstappen.
But why hasn't Bottas just seen that he's locking up every time into Ravazza? He's not under huge pressure at that point. The only way it was looking like he was going to lose that position was in locking up and going off. But he's been threatening to do it every lap. If you break 5-10 metres earlier, maybe you don't find the last 100th of performance, but you don't make a big mistake. And it's the second time in 3 races that he's thrown away a significant position by locking up and going off.
Well, Mercedes now having a look at a new set of tyres for Valtteri Bottas, probably just because, really, he's got a 30-second margin to everyone behind. Lewis Hamilton still leading the Grand Prix, 13.5 seconds now clear of Max Verstappen. He was 4 seconds clear of Bottas when he came out of the pits, was Hamilton. But he's extended his margin even more. Raikkonen's still yet to pit, and he's got Sergio Perez coming up right behind him in the racing point. Raikkonen at some point will have to come into the pit lane, you would have thought. Lap 44 of 63. His teammate Giovinazzi came in on lap 12 earlier on. And Giovinazzi's under a bit of pressure at the moment from Sebastian Vettel. And once Raikkonen pits, we'll know the full order. He's just coming through the Villeneuve chicane at the moment. And then it is Sergio Perez who's running in a net 4th position, really, having started in 11th on the grid. A classic Sergio Perez drive, this one.
Yeah, this was the one. You were quick to rule out Racing Point and Sergio Perez after they didn't make Q3 yesterday. I'm going to have to remind you of that. And I said, watch out, because this is going to be a Perez special on Sunday. Starting with a fresh choice of tyre outside of the top 10. The Racing Point is a very quick car in race conditions. And Perez right now is driving it really, really well. Every weekend, he nearly finished there, best of the rest, behind Leclerc as well last week, despite falling to the back on the opening lap. And now he's had another storming drive, helped by a free choice of starting tyre and a good strategy to go with it. And he is looking comfortably like he's going to finish 4th. He's got Raikkonen to pass in the next lap or so. He's 9 tenths away from the Finn, who hasn't pitted and still doesn't. But Perez has got 8 seconds back to Ricciardo now.
And another day where Alex Albon is 50 seconds behind his teammate Max Verstappen, and Perez is pulling out all the stops.
That's an irrelevant comparison today, though, because Albon's just been in traffic. 50 seconds is not a function necessarily of Albon's pace. He's just been staring at the back of Leclerc for the entire race so far. 45 laps of traffic. And it's because they all pitted to cover George Russell early on. And then it was Leclerc tried to jump Ricciardo. No one... Well, they were all on the soft tyres, those guys as well, so they didn't have the option to do something different, which Perez and Vettel did. Ocon did.
I'm getting a massive headache from all these objects. It's like a kick in the head every time.
That's a weird one from Kevin Magnussen, isn't it?
So he's lost the synchronization of the upshift. And it is jolting him every time he's taking the upshifts. It's really, really harsh. He's obviously lost the quick shift synchronization, and it's just a really harsh upshift that he's getting now. And there you're reminded of the power that's going through the engines and the gearbox as well. When you see best part of 1,000 horsepower and shifting up through the rev ranges as well. And Magnussen is getting a jolt every time he's taking it. He's in 18th. He's 9 seconds off the next car ahead, which is Lance Stroll, still having a miserable outing. Will he retire the car? 17 laps to go. He's had his fun for the day, Magnussen. Nice little battle with the midfielders, fighting very aggressively, but now he's not enjoying himself.
Lap 46 of 63. Hamilton leading, 13 seconds clear of Verstappen in second position, Valtteri Bottas in third. Hamilton can't wrap up the championship today, but a result like this, and it's going to be fairly plausible for him come Turkey in 2 weeks' time. Jenny, McLaren at the moment running in 9th and 10th positions once Kimi Raikkonen pits.
Yeah, and they will be looking at Kimi Raikkonen and just seeing what his tyres are doing. He's managed 45 laps on those mediums. Now, they'll look at Raikkonen because they pitted on lap 14 and 18 onto the medium tyres. So it looks likely that they can get to the end of this race. It just depends on their pace, what they can do, but they'll be desperate to keep the cars on track.
Giovinazzi pitted earlier than the two McLarens, and he went for medium tyres as well. So Alfa Romeo clearly believed pretty heartily that the medium tyre would last kind of forever in this Grand Prix, and Raikkonen is proof of that pudding right now. 45 laps in, and Raikkonen still ticking along nicely. He's just done his personal best lap of the race, still ahead of Sergio Perez, and if he can keep going and going and going, Raikkonen's got a chance of some points here. He's having another stellar drive.
Perez, as it stands, would move up to 5th place in the Drivers' Championship. Wouldn't be too far behind Daniel Ricciardo in a 4th place fight, which is a great drive from Sergio Perez. Great season for the Mexican as well. Leclerc's closing in on Ricciardo too.
So as it stands, if Raikkonen were to pit, he would come out behind George Russell, and that would be 12th place, but ahead of Sebastian Vettel after Vettel's slow stop.
How bad are you feeling? Can you carry on, or do you want to retire?
My job is it's painful, man.
Magnussen giving all of the hints. Like, Magnussen is not going to be a driver that says it hurts too much, I'm retiring. I don't know Kevin Magnussen super well. Maybe you do. Well, you do. But that doesn't feel like Magnussen's style. But that is all the hints of. That would be ideal, especially when he's 11 seconds off the back of Stroll, who's 10 seconds off the back of Grosjean. Not been a good race this for Magnussen since he got turned around at turn 1 at Tosa, but he doesn't seem...
he doesn't want to call the shots, does he?
No,
he doesn't want to be the one to say, no, it's hurting too much to carry on, I want to pit. But it is pretty bleak for him right now.
Perez is right behind Kimi Raikkonen. There's no real huge need to stress here, because Perez's advantage over Ricciardo is 8 seconds. So although he's... And actually, Raikkonen's lap time, it's a 19.0 on that last lap compared to Ricciardo's 18.8. So Raikkonen's lap times are really good. Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, but Raikkonen only 0.2 slower than Ricciardo on that last lap, 0.3 slower than Leclerc, having been on these medium tyres for 50 laps now. Coming up to Variante Alta.
Yeah, so Raikkonen's going to emerge in 12th place, but he's going to be about 3 seconds behind George Russell, who is lapping at a similar pace than. And then he's going to be on some soft tyres, Kimi Raikkonen. He's going to be able to use the softs for the last 13 laps were he to pit now. He's not got much time left to make his pit stop, which he will have to make, according to the rules. But again, now he pits. Now Raikkonen pits, and he should emerge in 12th for a really aggressive final stint, and Magnussen is retiring.
So Magnussen out of the Grand Prix. He joins Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly on the sidelines. How's Raikkonen's pit stop going to work out? We'll see where he emerges. Comes into the pits. It is going to be a set of new soft tyres for the Alfa Romeo driver. Nice little pit stop at 2.5 seconds. So he'll come out behind the two McLarens, behind George Russell as well. And then, as Jolien said, we'll see what he can do in the remaining 13 laps on these soft tyres.
So for the second race in a row, Raikkonen has got a chance of a point He just was passed by Sebastian Vettel in the closing stages in Portugal last week, having made that astonishing start, jumping up right through the field. He then filtered back down the order at the end and finished 11th, tantalisingly close to a point, which for Alfa Romeo this year is a great achievement. Now he's in 12th. He's going to be the attacker this time in the final 13 laps, and he's on soft tyres, which he should be able to attack really, really well with. He's got George Russell ahead, and then Norris and Sainz on their ageing medium tyres, which will be, well, Norris at the moment is holding on to that 10th place, and he's about 10 seconds ahead of Raikkonen.
Lap 50 of 63. The top 10 now: Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Ricciardo, Leclerc, Albon, Kvyat, Sainz and Norris, Jenny.
Yeah, and if you look at the battle for third place in the Constructors' Championship, this is not a good weekend for McLaren. If it finishes like this, it would be Racing Point in third on 138, Renault on 130 and McLaren on 127 points. They needed more than 3 points out of this weekend.
Yeah, it hasn't been much of a weekend for McLaren, really, has it? Renault looking strong.
As predicted yesterday by some, McLaren, if they finished 9th and 10th, which they qualified in, starting on the soft tyre, which they had to use because they got into Q3, then struggling against Racing Point, which is effectively one car, with Stroll being out of any level of contention in this Grand Prix. He's now last of the 17 runners left. And Ricciardo, Renault have only got one car as well, because Ocon has retired from the race. He wasn't looking particularly strong for a point-scoring finish either. But one car of Racing Point.
Off is Verstappen. Max Verstappen's got a right rear puncture, and he's off in the gravel trap at Tamburello. He's dug in there as well. This will be a safety car. Verstappen's out of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, something broke on the car.
It's the Villeneuve chicane, I think. It's the second chicane for Verstappen, and he is in the gravel after such a good drive, after such an impressive race, after pressuring Bottas into a mistake. The right rear just looks like it shredded itself.
Yeah, it looks like just like a puncture, like a rear tyre failure for Verstappen, and he's ended up pointing the wrong way at the Villeneuve chicane, turn 5. What a shame. After a brilliant drive, nice overtake on Bottas, doing it all right. There is a safety car, a full safety car, with not long left, 11 laps to go in this race, and Verstappen out of second place, hands the 1-2 finish to Mercedes right now.
Raikkonen will be kicking himself.
If Raikkonen had pitted, well, he's still in it with a great chance, because he's on a soft tyre. Now the pack's all bunched up.
So box.
And they just pulled it just before I got...
Delta.
Is Bottas going to pit? Bottas pits. So Bottas is going to pit onto a new set of softs and attack Hamilton at the end of the Grand Prix.
But Hamilton will probably pit on the next lap, and I think that will then neutralise the tyre difference. So this is going to be safety for Mercedes now. The soft, the best warm-up, and make sure they're not attacked from any plucky midfielders now for third place.
Talking of plucky midfielders, P10, George Russell in the Williams, up into 10th spot, looking to score his first championship point in Formula One.
But very, very vulnerable on a really old hard tyre now, with Kimi Raikkonen on a new soft just behind him. Let's get a replay now of what happened to Max Verstappen. So he's heading down, he's already pointing slightly to the right on the steering, and then pop, the right rear just fails. And round he goes. Absolutely nothing the driver can do in that instance. It's just a right rear tyre failure. Perez pits for some softs.
Okay, so Sergio Perez in the Racing Point comes in, as is coming Kvyat, as is coming Carlos Sainz in the McLaren. So we'll see how this all shakes out.
Ricciardo stayed out, Leclerc stayed out, Albon stayed out, Norris stayed out. Perez was in a net third place, which he's just passed up for a chance of some soft tyres. He's lost a lot of places on track, down to 7th now, but he's on soft tyres against all others on a used hard or a medium in the case of Norris. Interesting.
So safety car deployed. We'll give you a now Hamilton pits then. So he'll come into the pit lane.
And he's got time to pit and still come out ahead of Valtteri Bottas.
10 laps to go. And Vettel comes in as well. Hamilton emerges on the soft tyres, so that'll be no problem. He will emerge in the lead of the Grand Prix, ahead of Bottas in second position, but then The fight for third is going to be very, very tasty, isn't it? As Jolien was just alluding to, Vettel now drops down to the back of the field. The safety car will pick up Hamilton before too long. And so Hamilton emerges then ahead of Bottas. Vettel will be let through. And it wasn't super easy between Hamilton and Bottas there, but it is Hamilton who comes out just in front. Ricciardo third, Leclerc fourth, Albon fifth, Norris sixth, Perez seventh, Kvyat eighth, ninth is Sainz, 10th is Russell, then Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Stroll, Grosjean and Vettel, the 16 drivers we still have running. Here's Hamilton's radio.
Delta, 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 Delta.
Calm down, man.
It gets a bit agitated, doesn't he, Bonington? Sometimes you think back, especially to Hockenheim a few years ago, just getting another replay for Verstappen. But as you say, it just popped at the 100-meter board really and sent him spinning into the gravel at the Villeneuve chicane. So
We've got a great fight for third.
Yeah,
we've got a really good fight for third. Ricciardo, Leclerc, Albon and Norris all stayed out, wanting track position on a circuit that has been difficult to pass on today, over a new set of soft tyres. Now that's probably surprised Perez and Racing Point. Oh no, Russell's off. Russell's off and out.
George Russell is in the wall down at Aqua Minerale. What has happened to the Williams driver? It looks as though he's crashed coming out of the run down from Piratella towards Aqua Minerale, and Russell's out of the Grand Prix. He's had quite a big one. How? Under the safety car.
Has he dropped it trying to warm the tyres up, or has something failed?
He's shaking his head, George Russell. But what on earth has happened? We're about to get a replay coming out of Piratella. He's behind the safety car and lights up the rears all by himself and crashes into the concrete wall. Russell out of the Grand Prix, out of the points-paying positions. Just hit a little bump as he tried to floor the throttle and get a bit of tyre temperature. Here's the replay. Just hit a bump, wheel spin in the wall.
Don't know what to say.
Tough. Norris now pits. Tough for George Russell, really, really tough. He's having a good drive. Tyre temperature's dropping on the hard tyre, but that's not a mistake you want to see from another brilliant shot at a points finish. Done. And that's going to lengthen the safety car period. It's going to help Daniel Ricciardo, Leclerc and Albon on their old hard tyres. Oh, what a clanger from Russell there.
Yeah. So
Hamilton, it is really difficult to drive Formula One car when the tyres are cold. I mean, I really can't over-egg it. Grosjean's made that mistake before. It's been done. Bottas has spun behind the safety car before as well. It's a tricky one.
Lance Stroll has just wiped out his front jackman after coming in a little bit too hot into the pit lane. Went flying. Looks to be okay.
Sorry about that. Brakes are really cold.
Of course, it's not Stroll's fault, is it? The brakes are really cold, he says.
Missed the stop by about 2 metres.
Yeah. Jenny?
Yeah, I've just spoken to Mercedes. They have good news for Valtteri Bottas. During that pit stop, they managed to remove the debris that's been causing him so many issues. So debris now removed from Valtteri Bottas's car.
That 54 of 63.
So possibly Bottas can now dream of a fight with Hamilton on this safety car restart when we get going. There is not going to be many laps left. Russell is hitting himself on the leg. He's so frustrated sitting down next to the barrier at Aqua Minerale. Still helmet on, really inconsolable right now, George Russell. I feel really sorry for him because this was one of those times where you think it was his moment, and he'd driven so well and he's so deserving of a point in Formula One, driving in that Williams car, getting himself up there a few times a season, and this is one of those chances that he knows it's slipped by. I've been in that position myself. Tricky. But for Bottas, now at the front, debris removed, 8 laps to go, maybe 6 when this safety car now comes in. He's got to get a good restart.
Hamilton leading, Bottas in second, both will be on the soft tyre. And then third place is Daniel Ricciardo, fourth is Charles Leclerc, fifth is Alex Albon, all on the hard tyre that they've been on for 30 laps or so. Sergio Perez in 6th, Daniel Kvyat 7th, Sainz in 8th, Norris in 9th, Raikkonen in 10th are all on the soft tyre that they changed to fairly recently. Not brand new, but they'll have done a couple of outlaps or maybe one run in qualifying or something like that. So they're going to have a huge pace advantage.
And Russell has just illustrated how tricky it is to keep temperature in hard tyres that are very used. That's what Ricciardo, Leclerc and Albon have all got. They're 3rd, 4th and 5th. Ricciardo looking for a podium. If Leclerc passes him, that'll be a podium for him. Albon's only ever had one podium in his career for Red Bull. They're all hunting this moment of glory, but behind it's going to be Sergio Perez and Daniel Kvyat, who have taken the plunge and gone for the new soft tyres. We're going to have so much more grip. It's going to be a pretty funky restart.
Perez was a toughie, because he's given up the track position. I think that's the surprise for me.
And he wouldn't have banked on Russell then crashing, which extends the safety car period.
Yeah,
that's probably taken away another 4 or 5 laps from the race that he would have hoped he could use his soft tyres on to pass Albon, Leclerc and Ricciardo. But I do think when we get going here, Perez is going to have a huge advantage on the restart to try and pass Albon first, and then he's got to get up to the back of Leclerc and Ricciardo, just because when you're driving behind the safety car, tyre temperatures drop. When you're on a hard tyre that's done 40 odd laps, it's really difficult to keep the temperature in, and that's why pretty much everyone else has taken the option to pit.
That 56 of 63. We'll have a look next time the cars come down past Acqua Minerali, but there was quite a lot of detritus on the track, so we'll see how quickly they can sweep it off, because it was on the racing line really, and they're only getting sort of these 2-minute bursts, the marshals, to peg it onto the track, do a bit of sweeping and then peg it off again.
Yeah, hopefully we can get going on the next racing lap, but let's wait and see how well the marshals can clear the detritus away from the entry to Acqua Minerali where Russell went off. Verstappen's car has long since been removed, but now it's just the clear up of Russell's. Russell's car is gone, but it's the debris and rubble on the track where at the scene of the accident now that's delaying the restart.
Reece Young asked whether Marcus Ericsson hit George Russell, because it was very similar to the Romain Grosjean accident in Baku back in the day. So here they come down here to Acqua Minerali.
I reckon we're good to go.
Yeah, it looks pretty okay, doesn't it?
There are marshals on the track doing the final bit of sweeping, but by the time that cars come round next time, big lock-up from Ricciardo, trying to get temperature into the tyres on his hards. If we get going now, he just wants more and more laps under safety car right now.
Hamilton, Bottas, Ricciardo, Leclerc, Albon the top 5. Perez, Kvyat, Sainz, Norris, Raikkonen the top 10. Giovinazzi, Latifi, Grosjean, Vettel, Stroll, the 15 runners.
Another lap behind the safety car we've got.
Yeah. So safety car still has its lights on.
And then we're going to have 6 racing laps, and Ricciardo, this is the sound you can hear now, the Australian trying to put some temperature into the tyres. He's able to accelerate a little bit better than Russell was, so he's got more rear temperature. But he's just weaving desperately, braking desperately, the 2 best measures to put temperature into the tyres. He knows that he's going to be under attack on this restart. There's no hope of Ricciardo moving forward. The 2 Mercedes are always in a league of their own in 2020, particularly when Verstappen's out of the race, as he is now, and they're on soft tyres. We've got a head-to-head for the race win. Ricciardo's just got to get his elbows out and keep 3rd.
That 57 of 63. So hopefully this will be the last lap behind the safety car. And a lot of people saying, you know, if Grosjean made that mistake, he's an idiot. But if Russell does it, we're all very sad. Neil Sinnott says if Albon or Grosjean did this, both Jolyon and Jack would be slating them in the post-race podcast. So I look forward to discussion this evening about the Russell incident. Thoughts?
It's not a good error. It's not a good error from Russell. No doubt about it. But I have sympathy with him when he's having a good drive. And I think for Russell, he's done so much and got so little reward in his career. He's had so many good efforts. Yes, you could say in the end, he's got 0 points to his name, and Kubica got the point when it counted in Germany. And we'll get into this debate later. Yeah, we'll get into this debate later. Russell hasn't got race results to back up his outright pace, and it is an error. There's no getting away from it. He does a lot very well, and he's driving a difficult car.
Safety car coming in, lights are out, and now Hamilton will get to decide when to restart this Grand Prix. Down towards Ravazza at the final corner. Weaving left to right, Bottas will try and take advantage at the restart. We'll be about to start lap 58 of 63. There'll be 8 laps to go when Hamilton comes across the line. And there he goes, flat out of Ravazza. Big twitch from Bottas. And Hamilton is going to hold the lead fairly comfortably. Ricciardo is looking okay compared to Leclerc in 4th position and Albon in 5th. But how's Perez doing? He's queued right up behind Albon as they come across the start-finish straight. Pulls to the one side, and surely they're going to be 3 wide coming down towards Tamburello. Up the inside goes Kvyat. I think he's going to get 2 here, Daniel Kvyat, and he does. Kvyat gets ahead of Albon, gets ahead of Perez. Brilliant stuff from the Russian, the AlphaTauri driver, up into 5th place. And now weaving behind is Carlos Sainz, trying to get past Perez. Perez goes around the outside of Albon at the Villeneuve chicane, and Albon spins. Sideways goes the Red Bull, drops down, out of the order. He gets back onto the track okay, but he's now down in 10th position. Now, here comes Kvyat on Leclerc. Side by side, up through the left-hander of Piratella. Kvyat's on a mission. This is his greatest F1 drive of all time.
He's going to get a podium here the way he's going. Ricciardo is the last car standing in his way. Those on hard tyres have 0 grip. Albon's already spun. He bottled up Perez as well, and that allowed Kvyat through. And so close to being hit by Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris as well as he went round on the exit of Villeneuve chicane. Kvyat's just done the perfect restart. Passing Perez was his private battle to be leader of those that had pitted for softs, and now he's just got to clear Ricciardo for that podium.
They're right together as they come now out of over the start-finish straight again, and this could be Kvyat's opportunity. Right up behind Daniel Ricciardo as they come charging down towards Tamburello. I don't know how Sainz didn't go into the side of Alex Albon there, but he just managed to keep out of it. Perez is now attacking Leclerc as they come into the Tamburello chicane. Kvyat is still back from Ricciardo by about a second or so. Latifi's just got past Sebastian Vettel. So the order is Hamilton, Bottas out front, and then it's Ricciardo 3rd, Kvyat 4th, Leclerc 5th, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Raikkonen and Giovinazzi the top 10. And this is the thing with Russell. This is going to be a double points finish for Alfa Romeo the way that it's looking, and that could be huge in terms of the Constructors' Championship because they've not got many points, either of those 2 teams, but they could be on for 3 here, Alfa Romeo. Lap 59 of 63.
And Latifi's 11th. Latifi could be on for a point with Albon spinning out as well. He just needs 1 more position and he's going to get that point for Williams, which would be galling for Russell. Those on hard tyres, they're starting to get temperatures up now and able to defend, but there's going to be DRS soon, which is going to help Kvyat and Perez clear them.
That 59 of 63. Down towards the double left-hander at Ravazza at the bottom of the hill. Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's in control of this race on lap 60 of 63. 4 to go. And it is Bottas in 2nd, Ricciardo 3rd, and Kvyat doesn't quite have the pace, does he, to catch Daniel Ricciardo, I don't think. He's not close enough yet to get the DRS, well, the DRS isn't available yet, and Perez is right up behind Charles Leclerc, so presumably the hards will get more temperature in them, but they're just going to be fundamentally slower and older.
Indeed, but the best thing for Ricciardo is that Kvyat doesn't seem to be able to get close enough right now. He hasn't got the pace, even on the new softs, but he's got the track position. So Perez should clear Leclerc when we have DRS on the next lap. We're then going to have a 3-lap scrap to the end of the Grand Prix, but Perez has got to clear Kvyat on the same tyre, which will not be so easy.
So Ricciardo set for a 2nd podium. We're just getting a replay of Daniel Kvyat coming out of Tosa, and this is his pass on Charles Leclerc around the outside up at Piratella. He just got such a great run out of Tosa. They went wheel to wheel and didn't even do track limits, Kvyat, on the exit. Lovely stuff.
Super move, super move. Trusted that he had the grip, trusted Leclerc wouldn't wash wide into him, and made it stick.
3 laps to go. Hamilton leading. Bottas second, Ricciardo in third. Kvyat in fourth, a second back, so he's not quite close enough to get DRS. One man who does is Sergio Perez in 6th position in the Racing Point. In fact, Kvyat does get DRS, but he's not going to be close enough to make the move. Perez is going to want to make the move here on the Ferrari. Coming into Tamburello, not close enough. Leclerc holds the place.
The hard tyres right now look like they might be able to hang on. Leclerc for 5th, but more crucially, Ricciardo for 3rd. He's got Kvyat just half a second behind him. And then there's a bit more of a gap because Leclerc is still bunching up Perez and the 2 McLarens, and then the 2 Alfa Romeos, both on for points finishes. But Perez was in that 3rd place, that pit stop. Racing Point may be living to regret that one.
Down in 6th position now, Sergio Perez, unable to get past Charles Leclerc still on that last lap. Valtteri Bottas was 3/10 quicker than Hamilton. The gap came down again to 1.3 seconds between the two of them. Daniel Kvyat's last podium was Hockenheim last year. But I don't think he's going to get one today because he's close to the back of the Renault, but he's only a second back. Hamilton bangs in another fastest lap of the race. The gap's now 2.6 seconds. He took 1.2 seconds out of Bottas on that last tour. Kvyat again within DRS range. Ricciardo swinging around in front of him to try and lose a bit of slipstream. And Kvyat closes and closes, but isn't close enough to make a move just yet. Perez up to the back of Leclerc. He too is a little further away than he would want to be on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. So frustrating, this one for Sergio Perez. He'd done such a good job, but that pit stop might not have been the right move. Hamilton still leading, 3.8 seconds clear now of Valtteri Bottas. He's absolutely flying again, Hamilton. He doesn't just cruise to the line, does he?
Go for fastest lap as well, for good measure. Not that that point will count for a lot in terms of his championship, but I think more one for the stats for Lewis Hamilton, which he's again blasting away from Bottas. We're on the penultimate lap. I don't think Kvyat's going to be able to get close enough. He's got one more attempt into Tamburello. Ricciardo's just got to be squeaky clean and not make a mistake down at Ravazza.
And Ricciardo, for want of not doing the commentator's curse, he is kind of a squeaky clean kind of driver, isn't he? He's not one that makes errors. He's not one that you feel will be pressured into a mistake. Hamilton does the fastest lap of the race again. He's having a laugh out there, Hamilton. 3 seconds quicker than Valtteri Bottas on that last lap. Admittedly, Bottas is going a second slower than Daniel Ricciardo behind him, even on new softs. So Bottas isn't really bothering, to be perfectly honest with you, on the final lap of the Grand Prix.
Now Bottas will probably go for fastest lap on the final lap. I think Bottas is saving it all up for one final attempt in their little duel for fastest lap, and that's all. Hamilton's got the race win in the bag, and Ricciardo has managed to hold off Kvyat into Tamburello. Leclerc's held off Perez. The gamble for everyone to switch to soft tyres looked like it would work when the hard tyres couldn't warm up. Albon spun, Leclerc lost out to Kvyat as well. But then they came in, and actually, I'm surprised that Perez and Kvyat haven't made more progress on the soft.
Yeah, well, you would say that it's worked for Kvyat, hasn't it? The gamble, because he was, what, 7th or 8th before the pit stop window?
Yeah, well, he was behind. He didn't lose anything with a pit stop. That's the thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's
because
true.
It was only Perez that lost. All those that stayed out were already ahead of Kvyat, so it was a free pit stop for him.
Lewis Hamilton out of the final corner. The checker flag falls, and he wins the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Superb drive from Hamilton. He was helped a little by a virtual safety car, but he had the pace all day, and even at the end of the Grand Prix, sets the fastest lap of the race on the final lap to beat his teammate Valtteri Bottas comfortably. Daniel Ricciardo bags another podium for Red Bull. He's opened the floodgates now, got the first one a few weeks ago, Renault's first since their return to Formula One, and he's put another in the bag. And Mercedes are the 2020 Constructors World Champions as well. For the 7th year in a row, Toto Wolff embracing the team on the pit wall. 7 championships in a row for the Mercedes team. Superb performance by them. One of the greatest F1 teams of all time, if not the. And they have one of the greatest of F1 drivers of all time, if not the, in Lewis Hamilton.
Get in there, Lewis. That is it, mate. Mercedes AMG Petronas 7 times. 7 times, mate. What a great way to seal that.
Oh, guys, what an incredible achievement for all of you. I'm so proud of everybody. so grateful I could be a part of it. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
No, thank you, mate. Couldn't have done it without you. Couldn't have done it without you. What an achievement.
Very true, I think. And the two Mercedes flying in formation around Acqua Minerale. Bottas finishing in second place today to Lewis Hamilton, having started on pole, having done a good job in qualifying. He had no answer to Hamilton's pace in the race. The talk of the damage that he picked up on, what was it, lap 2 from a bit of debris is what the team say. Maybe without that it would have been a different day for Bottas, but the day is done for Mercedes, and they end it as Constructors World Champions. Time penalty for Romain Grosjean, 5 seconds for exceeding track limits, and so he finishes now behind Lance Stroll because of that penalty, I believe. So there we go. No, it's not really much to say about that.
No major breaking news on that one.
No.
Great effort from Hamilton in the end.
Awesome, mate. Scenario 12. Scenario 12.
Holy mac and cheese balls. That's another podium.
Awesome, mate. Awesome.
Ricciardo and Renault elated with third.
Yeah, great effort from Ricciardo as well. Good pace, but a brilliant strategy in the end to stay out, to do the opposite of Perez and get back into that third place. Obviously, Verstappen's retirement was the one in the big three that made way. And then there's always a dash for that place on the podium. But the strategist did a good job. Ricciardo did a great job in the car to hold off Kvyat, despite being on very old hard tyres at the end. He got the warm-up and did it all right. Second podium for Renault.
Yeah, absolutely. They sealed their first podium, did Daniel Ricciardo at the Eiffel Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, 9th in Portimao, but that's 2 podiums in 3 races for Daniel Ricciardo, the same amount as Valtteri Bottas, who's now got 2 podiums in 3 races. But Hamilton climbs out of his car, puts the wheel back in, a little pat on the Mercedes-Benz logo on the top of the halo, and then goes points and has just a gentle jog to run over and celebrate with the team. The team elated with that. Toto Wolff elated with that. Big embrace with his driver. Jenny.
Yeah, just in the battle for third place. There's only 1 point now separating Renault, Racing Point and McLaren. Renault on 135 points, if my math is right. The others on 130 points, both Racing Point and McLaren. This is going to be touch and go.
It's going to be really, really exciting, isn't it? Coming down to the final couple of races, it's going to be something to keep an eye on, no doubt about that. Hamilton congratulating all of the team that have made their way up to the Parc Fermé area. That big cheer, though, is for, I imagine, Daniel Ricciardo, who runs over to his Renault squad. Like buses, aren't they, podiums? Latifi, the final finishing order then, Hamilton winning, Bottas second, Ricciardo third, Kvyat, Leclerc the top 5, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi the top 10. Latifi 0.7 seconds away from getting a point. He was so close to Antonio Giovinazzi at the end there, Nicholas Latifi. Sebastian Vettel 12th, 13th for Stroll, 14th Grosjean, 15th Albon. Out of the Grand Prix, Russell, Verstappen, Magnussen, Ocon and Gasly. Wolff and Hamilton in exchange lifts up. Hamilton lifted Wolff first of all, then Wolff lifted Hamilton back. And yet another victory and an extension of the championship lead. And obviously it's been a case of when, not if, Hamilton wins his 7th title, but it now becomes a situation that he can win it in Turkey at the next Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. Having a look at the back of his Mercedes at the moment is Lewis Hamilton as he walks around the back of it. 3rd place for Daniel Ricciardo as well, which is a great result. Verstappen, Verstappen was almost driver of the day for me today.
He was brilliant, wasn't he? Good pass on Bottas, but so much pressure on Bottas as well. And to split the Mercedes in a Red Bull is a sensational effort. And it was just taken away from him with that rear right tyre failure. another one for Pirelli this year. And a great shame for Verstappen. And his own personal fight with Bottas as well, which is still raging on. If Verstappen had beaten Bottas, then that gap would have been just 14 points in the Drivers' Championship for second place. But now it's up to 35.
Yeah, indeed. Let's now hear from our top three, starting with Daniel Ricciardo. They're going to be speaking to Paul di Resta underneath the podium in Imola after an entertaining Grand Prix.
Daniel, you're getting pretty used to being up here. Another third place in 3 races, obviously. How did that plan out?
It was a bizarre one. You know, I got into fourth off the start, and I felt that was obviously our kind of best we could do with the 3 in front. But then, obviously Perez had really good pace. He passed us through the pit sequence, and then I think he pitted for the soft at the end with a safety car. We obviously kept track position. I'm not sure what happened to Max, but obviously that put us in the fight. And yeah, I don't know, Kvyat came out of nowhere the last few laps, but that was fun. Two podiums in 3 races. Yeah, as you say, that all just happened very quickly at the end there. It was good fun.
Good opportunity to do another shoey. Is Cyril got to get another tattoo on the other side now as well?
He actually just said, he goes, congrats, but I'm not getting a second tattoo, so maybe someone else in the team. But yeah, today I won't forget the shoey.
Is it a cool track to race on?
It is. It obviously is pretty difficult for overtaking, but the actual circuit itself is awesome. It's mega.
Well done, mate. Enjoy it up there. You deserved it. Valtteri obviously started on pole. You got away perfectly, but you were fighting winded there. I think you picked up some damage up towards turn 7 that you couldn't avoid.
Yeah, I think that made quite a big effect today. Start was good. That was one of the main things to get right today. But on lap 2, suddenly out of turn 7, there was a debris. I didn't have time to avoid it. So
did you see the debris then?
Yeah, I saw it. So I aimed in the middle of the car. At least I tried not to run over that with the tires. But obviously it costed some damage or something, which made the car quite tricky to drive.
And I guess it was very difficult because we saw Max pressuring you towards the end, a few mistakes in the lockups, but you can put that down to just a lack of downforce.
I was really pushing hard to try and avoid, Max getting through. So yeah, I had to push over my limits, and that led to real mistakes. So unlucky.
Listen, nevertheless, a good weekend, I guess, in speed. On to the next one in Turkey. Well done.
Yeah.
Lewis, outstanding. You obviously broke the record for wins last time out, but to come here, perfectly managed on the radio, your strategy, how it all played out, and I guess you're delighted.
It was an exhausting race. The speed that we were having to go, obviously I had a poor start, and it's just very overwhelming right now because I look at my crew, this team here, and I know all the guys and girl, men and women back at the factory, back in Brackley and Brixworth, who, they're the unsung heroes. They're the ones that have really grafted away, continued, never given up, just continued to push and elevate and innovate. And people watch it and maybe think we're used to this, but it just always feels like the first with this team. And I think that's because of the spirit. And so I'm forever grateful to everyone to be a part of it, to be a part of breaking a record like this. No team has done this before. So, we got a great leader in our team. And I just also big thank you to Mercedes and Petronas and all of our partners who really, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without them. So,
I mean, you talk about that 7 consecutive Constructors' Championship. I mean, that is mighty force behind you.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and to come back year on year, and it's not. I tell you, whilst we have great performance, it's not easy to continue to deliver weekend in, weekend out, and for everyone, they're so precise with how they take the car apart and put it back together weekend in, weekend out, and 7-time champs. That's something I'm going to be able to tell my grandchildren one day.
Listen, man, you're going to be able to enjoy it up there. I want to speak to Toto. We've got a unique opportunity. Toto, can you come in, please? We don't often see you as elevated as you are. That's 7 consecutive Constructors World Champions. Lewis broke the record last time out with wins. You can see what that means to all these people involved here, and equally back at the factory.
Yeah, it's I'm not so much in the numbers, but this is something to be proud of, really. We have a group that is just amazing together. We've stayed together. We've tried to push the benchmark to new levels, and we've achieved that. And it's just a super proud moment with all these guys and being part of it.
Where do you go from here? I mean, you go to the next year. You've already talked. You've switched on to that, but I guess you regroup and you just set that bar even higher again.
Yeah, as long as we stay motivated and energized, and you can see that within these guys, then I think we can push it furthermore. I mean, there will be competition, no doubt, next year with Max and Honda trying to do a really good job towards the end of the season. So yeah, we are looking forward to a new challenge.
You don't win these championships not having two great drivers. Valtteri was windy today. Obviously, he had a perfect qualifying, was leading the race, and unfortunately, he went out. What happened there?
Valtteri had I think it was a Ferrari piece or a Racing Point piece about that size stuck underneath his car. It was debris he overran in lap 2. He couldn't avoid it.
Listen, outstanding this year. Great to see, and I hope you enjoy the champagne.
Thank you, Paul.
What an achievement for Mercedes, winning their 7th straight Constructors' Championship. Jack Nicholls, Jolyon Palmer watched the race and listened to those comments as well. And Toto Wolff, clearly the whole of Mercedes absolutely delighted. And we're in uncharted territories now, aren't we?
They've got the record, Mercedes, another record, and we'll see what more they can do going forward. You'd have to be a brave person to bet against them next year, wouldn't you? It's kind of similar to where we were at with Hamilton winning the 92. It's like, yeah, okay, but it doesn't matter because they're just going to win more.
Yeah, they're in uncharted territories. I'd say we're in very much charted territories with the same thing every year, basically, since 2014. The numbers are going up. The performance is staying the same level. It's incredible achievement.
Every year they come out and they look for little gains, little things they can do differently. They don't ever just stay still, do they, Jack? They're constantly trying to improve, and to many, that's the secret of some of their success.
The thing is, it's just so much more complicated than that because everybody is always trying to improve. So that's where words, phrases, sentences like that become so meaningless because Ferrari are trying to improve every year. Red Bull are trying to improve every year. Everybody is doing all they can in Formula One to try and improve every year, but it doesn't mean they can do it. And that's the sort of inexplicable element of Mercedes is how are they doing that?
Well, we shall talk about all of this in the podcast. Make sure you download it. It was another thrilling race. Lewis Hamilton yesterday said, it's going to be poor. Was it poor? I don't think so. It was fantastic. And next up, we go to Turkey in 2 weeks where Lewis Hamilton can win another championship title. So make sure you come back and join us for that. Obviously, you can download the podcast to hear all of the reaction to Mercedes winning a 7th title and what was a fascinating race. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Next up, a change of pace. It's the cricket.
Mercedes AMG Petronas F1 team winning their 7th Constructors title, and they're represented by Leo Stevens. Mechanic Leo Stevens, well done to Mercedes AMG Petronas, and well done too, of course, to Lewis Hamilton for his 9th win of the year. And in his honour and that of Mercedes AMG Petronas, the British and German national anthems. to Lewis Hamilton on his 93rd career win. Just amazing. Congratulations to him, and he receives the trophy now for this Emirates Gran Premio dell'Emilia Romagna, the 13th round of this year's FIA Formula One World Championship, and the trophy goes to the winning constructor, Mercedes-AMG Petronas, represented by mechanic Leo Stevens. Congratulations to the team on what an amazing achievement to win this 7th Constructors' Championship. To Valtteri Bottas, second place driver, his 5th second place. Well done to him, unlucky today. And to the 3rd place driver, Daniel Ricciardo, his second place in 3 races. Well done to Daniel. Congratulations to him. And now, gentlemen, the champagne!